So XDefiant Season 2, the Highwaymen, has dropped recently, and as you'd expect, it includes all things you'd expect from a new multiplayer season. We've got some new guns, some new game modes, obviously a new battle pass, and a few cosmetic items. Now I did make a video recently about XDefiant, how I feel that it has failed in terms of what it set out to do and be that COD competitor, but I thought it was only right to check this out and see if there's been any improvement since that video. Again, I will prefix this as I did the other video by saying that I do genuinely quite like XDefiant as a game. I just don't think it's been as successful as Ubisoft wanted it to be. Anyway, without further ado, let's get into Season 2 of XDefiant and see what this game now has to offer us. Also, if you are new here and you do enjoy the video, please do consider liking and subscribing, it really does mean the world. So I haven't played this game since I made that last video, and when I first loaded this up, I was met with a bit of a shock, and it was honestly nothing to do with the season itself. I realised that I'd been gifted 1,000 of the in-game currency. Now, I had to look that up because I knew for a fact I hadn't bought it, and turns out Ubisoft just gifted it to everyone. Now, of course, I'm not going to sit there and complain at getting stuff for free, that's awesome, but does that kind of represent where this game is currently at this stage? I mean, they are literally giving you the money to buy the new season. Again, not trying to come across as complaining, but when a company has to incentivize you to replay their game by giving you the new stuff for free that they're meant to be using to make money, bearing in mind the game itself is free, I think that's a bit concerning. Anyway, looking at this now essentially free season pass, I've got to be honest, it's just bad. Like, there's no two ways about it. Of course, it's got similar things to what the last season had, in the sense of it's got a couple of new guns in there, it's got the little emojis that you use when you sort of cheer or do an angry face, the stupid shit that you really don't need to worry about, and it's got, as you'd expect, a fuck ton of cosmetics, and oh my god, they are just poor. They've clearly got this varsity baseball type thing going on, which is obviously in tandem with the baseball season at the minute, which is now in post-season, but it just looks stupid. It looks childish. It doesn't look like something that people who actually like baseball would be that interested into. It looks like it's advertised for a younger audience than realistically the audience that should be playing this game. There are other themes throughout, like the Sugar Rush skins, which I'll be honest do like a bit of a meme. I'm not too upset about those, they're just a bit of fun. And I do actually quite like the tier 90 skin on the AK, that Nautilus. I do think that looks really good, and the skins surrounding it don't look too bad either. However, all those small positives get completely stripped away when I'm scrolling through this and I see I need to get to level 56 to unlock the fucking colour orange. Honestly, the fact that basic block colours are locked behind a paywall on just a standard gun is absolutely fucking absurd. It's not just that orange either, you've obviously got the Shamrock Green on the M60 at level 46, you've got the fucking Cobalt Blue on the LVOAC behind level 35, it's an absolute piss take. Not to mention that some of the other skins in here are so boring and generic that you'd genuinely unlock them for like getting headshots on Call of Duty. Like, this isn't stuff that people should be spending their money on. Frankly, I'm not spending my money on it, and I got given money for free, so I can't quite understand why anybody would want to go for this unless if you're really, really into Sugar Rush. When you have got such a poor battle pass such as this, I genuinely wish that they took a page out of Halo Infinite's book and made it so that there was no time limit on it, especially when you do have content interwoven into the battle pass such as weapons, because as a player that didn't play Season 1, I'm now unable to unlock the guns that were in that season. I appreciate you can argue that that's on me for obviously not playing the game at that point, but I feel like all players should be given the opportunity to still unlock everything that has been put into the game, especially if it's performance based. Not so much cosmetics, I can understand that, but in terms of actual gameplay weaponry, you should still be able to access that. Now, speaking of that new weaponry that is on offer, we're obviously talking about the PP-19, the SPAS-12, and the L86 LMG. Now, I'll be completely honest, I really haven't used these guns much at all, unless if I've picked them up off a dead player, because, funnily enough, I'm not playing a lot of this game. However, from what I have seen online, these guns do seem to actually hold their own and be a good part of the sandbox. There is nothing worse than when they release new guns and they're just not to the same standard as to what the pre-existing ones is, because what's the point? I will say this is a definite improvement on the previous seasons where there's been way less content in terms of guns, there's been less weaponry added, because this is a game that did start with very little weaponry in it. So seeing the playable sandbox increase as it has, and honestly in somewhat of a short spell, it's only been a month or two since the last season, I will give props to Ubisoft for this. I think that is good. Moving on from the Season Pass, we should probably address the Highwaymen themselves, right? Now, these have obviously been introduced from Far Cry New Dawn. That's the new faction that you've got within this season. I'll be honest, personally, never played Far Cry New Dawn. Don't really care about them, no real previous affinity to the games that they've been in. However, in terms of what is actually present within XDefiant, I do feel like they are quite a unique faction. They do hold their own from a visual standpoint. I always have a fear with games like this where you're bringing in loads of different IPs that a few of them start blending lines and looking very similar, but that's really not the case with the Highwaymen. And then also from a gameplay perspective, all the abilities and gadgets that they have seem very strong, which is honestly needed. Both the grenade launcher and the saw blade launcher are just really fun. They just cause chaos, obviously from that objective mode based element. The saw blade is fantastic, you can just get it in an objective, they all start pinging around, killing loads of people. That's exactly what you want. And then you have also got the scrap turret, which again, for sort of objective based gameplay, is fantastic. You can use it to hold down angles, just distract enemies, obviously do a bit of damage. It's all stuff that's actually viable in the sandbox, which you can't really ask for much more than that. Last time I was playing this game a lot, there was two main factions that were any good. It was the Echelon, and it was the Phantoms, and that was all anybody used. If you wanted to be objective, you'd use the Phantoms. If you wanted to be a little kill and use war hacks and shit, you'd be the Echelons, and that was it. So adding something else that's actually viable into the sandbox, into the gameplay, is exactly what you'd want to see from a new season. So moving away from the Highwaymen, this season did also introduce 3 new maps and 1 new game mode. Now in terms of the maps, I haven't even been able to play one. I thought it was just me getting unlucky with matchmaking, but turns out that only one of them's been released so far. Now, I don't think this is necessarily a bad thing because it will constantly allow the season to be sort of refreshed throughout, introducing a new map, a new experience for everyone. I think it's just slightly disappointing because this game does feel quite strapped for content right now. So, obviously releasing 3 maps at once would improve that instantly. But I understand why they've sort of gone for almost like a drip feed approach. Now in terms of that new game mode, Bomb, or as it's otherwise known, Search and Destroy, this is fantastic. Again, I feel like this just sort of speaks to me and the type of games that I like, but I'm a massive fan of tactical shooters, right? So when you've got things that are fully objective based, like the majority of what this game is, but it's only restricting to 1 life, I find this fantastic. Again, you can tell that Ubisoft obviously are good at making these sorts of games. That's what they thrive with Rainbow Six Siege, right? So this is just XDefiant's version on it. And yeah, it plays exactly how you would want it to play. It's a good addition, it's a good game mode. It's still disappointing to me that there is only 7 game modes in this game, and it's been out for 6 months. That's obviously nowhere near the amount of content that should be in a game like this. However, I do think this is definitely a positive addition. So overall then, how good is XDefiant Season 2? Does it do enough to help recapture that initial boom of players that it had when it released? To me, I don't quite think there's enough there with it. Now don't get me wrong, I think that what they have added this season is honestly largely positive. I'm a massive fan of the new game mode, I think it's brilliant. It just fully fits the tactical mindset that this game set out to do. And again, 3 new guns from a new season honestly isn't bad, it's better than the last few. But to me, I still think there's so much wrong with the Battle Pass itself. Again, obviously not everybody plays games like this purely for cosmetics, but when you enable a Battle Pass, you are trying to get players to constantly replay and come back to your game. And to me, this Battle Pass will fail in doing that. The main reason I personally fell off playing this game initially was the fact that there just wasn't enough content. And that is obviously improving with the more seasons they do, and it is becoming more of a fleshed out, well-rounded game. I just don't feel there's enough in here yet to still actually spark a big enough interest. The player numbers seem to be at a very similar level to what they had when I made the last video, so it's not as if this has created a big boom in popularity for XDefiant. I do just feel that this might be a little bit too little too late for the franchise, and it just didn't capitalise on that initial boom that it had. But enough about me, what do you guys think? Have you guys played XDefiant Season 2? Have you enjoyed it? Do you fear that this game is going to slowly die off the way it kind of has been doing? Let me know all your thoughts down below in the comments, and if you are new here and you still haven't subscribed, please do consider doing it. It would absolutely mean the world. Anyway, thanks ever so much for watching. I hope you see you in another video sometime soon.